Hey there, welcome to today's episode. It's going to be a live and unedited session where we take a quick look at the Ableton Move and Logic Pro for the iPad. Now you might be wondering why you'd want to do that, because of course Ableton Move is designed to be used with Ableton. That's the most seamless integration into a DAW. But if you're on the move, you're like me, I like being able to take my iPad places with me if I'm traveling. I don't even really like taking a laptop these days, I find it cumbersome. So I wondered whether there was an alternative that if I've got my ideas and my sketches on the move, which is what it's designed for, it's like a little sketch pad, but I want to actually finish some tracks, can I do that using Logic? And this is the way that I've set it up. I think it works pretty seamlessly, and I think it is a good alternative if you're not at home or if you don't want to take the laptop and get into using Ableton with the move. So let's look at how you set it up. Very, very simple. We've got a little sketch idea on the move, just the basic thing that we can use for this demonstration. It's an 82 BPM 2-bar loop, essentially, that's all it is. But that is something how I would work. I make these little loops, I then flesh them out inside of my DAW into something else. It consists of 3 basic tracks, so we've got our drum track, we've got one for sample chops, and one for the bass line. Logic side of things, we've just matched everything that is going on inside of the move. 82 BPM on both devices. I've set my loop marker to 2 bars because I'm working in 2-bar loops, and I've created 3 individual audio tracks to match the 3 tracks that are on my move. So everything is set up, it's in sync. A couple of other things, you'll want to go into settings, just take a look at your audio. As long as you've got your Ableton Move plugged in via USB-C cable, so mine is going into my little Kingston hub and then coming into the iPad, I can select Ableton Move audio as an input source. So nice and simple, that way we know we're taking the audio out of the move into the iPad. You might want to play around with the levels and things just to make sure everything's set up. And then the next thing we want to do is we want to enable link, because that means when we're taking loops in, which is what we'll be doing here, it's all going to be synced up nice and tight. Now you can do it manually, you could just hit record and start recording audio in, but if it is linked up, it's going to make your life easier. So we'll enable the little blue link button, which is just up here, side of Logic. In terms of the move, shift and go into your settings, and somewhere down here you will see link. By default, I believe it's turned off, but you can set it for tempo or start and stop. If you choose the start and stop option, which is what I'm going to be using, it changes the tempo as well, so don't worry about that. If you do shift and take a look at the tempo on the move, it's 82 BPM, but if I change that here, it will change inside of Logic. Hopefully that's big enough on the screen. You can see those tempos are synced and changing together. That way we know it's all synced up and it's good to go. The next thing we want to do is arm our track. So we will arm our first track to record. That's going to be where I want to put my drums. With the move, all I need to do is use the mute button to mute anything that I don't want to record to this particular track. So I just want the drums, the first track. That is now good to go. When I hit record, it's going to begin to record inside of Logic. I normally let it just do its thing for like the first 2 bars as like a bit of a count in, and then I'll hit play. You can hit play whenever you like because it's synced, so of course it's going to be synced to where the bars start. You might have to be careful because if you've got 2 bars like this, if you press it somewhere in the first bar, it's going to begin to start recording at the beginning of the second bar. So I'll just wait around to the end. If you need a metronome on, you can turn it on now, but because it's synced, I'm not going to bother. We'll hit record and we'll do that. So it kicks off recording. I'm going to wait till just after the second bar, hit play. Now there's a couple of things there. The first thing you'll notice is that I actually let it play twice around the 2 bars. That's just to make sure it's had a little bit of time. It is over Wi-Fi, so I just want to make sure that it is synced up. The other thing as well is that whenever you're pressing stop, you just need to make sure that you stop via the iPad first. I know that's common sense, but if you don't and you stop here, which I'm very tempted to do because I keep seeing this button and I just want to hit stop, you're going to stop the audio and interrupt that from the move. So just be mindful of that as well. But that is pretty much it. It's really, really simple. We want to add another track in. We just arm the next track to record. I'm going to mute the drums, turn on the sample chops, hit record. And there we go. we've recorded our second element in. Finally, just to do it one final time, we'll put the bass line loop in as well. So we'll arm our next track, we'll turn off the sample chops, turn on the bass line, and of course do the same thing. Stop it there like that. So we've recorded in our 3 elements. They're all synced up nice and tight. And as I say, we've got the building blocks brought into Logic that we can now flesh that out into a full track, because this is a fully fledged DAW. Tracks, mixing, AI, mastering assistance, even plugins, effects, everything that you want is now inside of the box. So there's no reason you can't finish a full track from your Ableton Move inside of Logic Pro. Nice little workflow, I think. The next thing I want to talk about just very quickly is MIDI, because I know some people are going to ask me about that. I haven't really gone too far into this. This is just my first impressions. If you have any tips, tricks, anything you can tell me about this, if you've got both of these devices, you've been playing around with them, please let me know in the comments. But I'll show you what I've discovered so far. Let's disable this particular track for recording. Let's arm this bottom MIDI track that I've set up. So we'll arm that. That is now good. You'll notice this one's already been highlighted. So if you had a keen eye, this is the king of digital third-party application that it's running through. It will use any of the kind of built-in Logic instruments. If you like, you can use those, of course, but I wanted to test it with a third-party app as well, just to see what happens with the MIDI. So I've loaded up one of those as an instrument inside of Logic, and if we double-click on this, I think we can open it up a little bit bigger so you can see it on screen. What you'll notice, if I press the pads, we get nothing in this current mode. A couple of things to check. Do Shift and go back into your settings on the Move, and just make sure that you go into MIDI and check that you've got MIDI out only. That's what I want set up. I'm going to come back out of that for a second. And the next thing that we need to do is we need to put it into Control Live mode, because that seems to me the only way that I can get this thing to transmit any MIDI. So we'll do it like that. Once it's set up like this, you'll notice it's pretty uninspiring. We've got no lights, we've got no visual feedback. But if we press the pads, it is playing that third-party plugin there. So it is receiving MIDI, and we can play up and down. That's as far as it goes, though, so far. And this, as I said, is just my initial test. So let me know in the comments other settings I can try, ways that I can expand upon this, because it would be great if we could map this a little bit more. Sure, it would be nice if there was some visual feedback as well. You see some lights and things. But you're making a track like we've just done. We've brought in the, the idea, our beat sketch. It would be kind of cool to be able to use the same controller to noodle around and add keys and other elements, things, whatever we want, over the top of what we've already got. The one thing that's interesting, it's kind of strange, is that it works with the keys or the pads like this. But it also works from the step sequencer. And strangely enough, it also works if you tap the encoders, including the volume button. So yeah, I've no idea what that's all about. I'm not sure how the MIDI settings work on this thing. All of the other buttons, as far as I can tell, don't do anything. If you click any of these side buttons, any of these buttons, the arrow buttons, nothing is MIDI mapped out. But there is some playability there. There's some way that you can link it. I just know a lot of people are probably going to ask me about what it's like as a MIDI controller, maybe with Logic. I'm not a big Logic guy. I'm an Ableton guy, so I'm more savvy with that particular DAW. You guys let me know in the comments things I could try, ways to get this to respond more. Can I sync the play buttons? Is there MIDI mapping even inside of Logic? I'm not 100% sure. Inside of Ableton, I can hit a MIDI mapping button and I can tweak parameters and MIDI map and stuff like that. I'll look further into it. I'm going to leave this episode there. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope it's been useful, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.